Hi, I'm Julia. Welcome to Grassroots Analytics Insider. Today we're here with Maria. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Yay. Okay, so tell us about yourself and your role at GA.
So my name is Maria Diaz. I'm the VP of Nonprofits. I started a couple months ago, and basically, I have had kind of like a wide range of different experiences, but mostly in campaigns, fundraising, and in policy as well. But kind of all of it has centered around data in all those different fields.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited to be at GA for the second time.
Yeah,
I was here
the
for,
return.
yes, I was here for about a year in 2021, and I was on the campaign side, running sales there. And then now I am running the nonprofits department, so both sales and client execution.
Cool, that's amazing. Um, okay, so you just mentioned you started at GA in 2021 and then you actually returned to where you were before at American Boats. Tell us about what you learned in kind of making those career moves back and forth to different organizations and like why that made sense for you.
Yeah, it was definitely not something I expected at all. But one of the things I was thinking about with or talking to interns about is that I uh, think early on in my career proved that I was both a hard worker and could like figure things out, and also like um, have like a very specific skill set around data organizing, um, like leading teams,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
all of that has helped me really and like prove myself early. So when these opportunities come up, they kind of just like come to me, which is like an awesome place to be in a career, to like
Yeah.
be able to have these opportunities or like be like recruited for these opportunities. So that's kind of how it's been a little ping ponging back and forth.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's been awesome because like all of kind of like lined up with where I was in life, and keeps bringing back to DC. I
Yeah.
grew up in Florida, which I love being there and being say politics, but also I'm fully enjoying being back at GA and still kind of working in a similar with similar types of organizations because we're nonprofits, both political and and purely nonpartisan nonprofits as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just made sense for this move to be back at GA and help really. Um, the goal here is to really help nonprofits grow.
Yeah, amazing. So I would love to hear a little bit more about like the types of policy work that you did kind of in Florida and beyond, and like how that looked early in your career.
Yeah, so I went to Johns Hopkins. I studied public health there, and
Cool.
I definitely it was one of those situations where you kind of just don't really know what kind of careers you can do in your life.
Yeah.
So, kind of have went through a lot of different phases there, starting off pre med. Hopkins definitely has a way of squashing that dream, but luckily, luckily, I learned how awesome public health is and
Yeah.
fell in love with it, and specifically health policy. And because it was Hopkins, it was very much like everyone did research. So you're like, I guess I should be doing that too.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for the 4 years after college. Like graduated college, did the Hillary campaign, and then came back to DC to work
Mm.
at a think tank, which I thought that was what I wanted to do long term. And it was awesome. I loved that work and experience and all the things I learned there, but definitely missed more the campaign speed of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I and the partisan nature of it. So
Sure.
that's when I went back to Florida for the 2020 cycle and got a job as a data analyst at American Votes, and then slowly worked my way up. By the time I left this year, I was the state director of the Florida team.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing.
there's a little bit through line here of like data policy, campaigns, and politics, all of that, but definitely a
Yeah.
little a weird one.
um, what was something that you learned for the first time at GA and then kind of took back to America Boats?
Oh my gosh, so much, especially when it comes to fundraising. So part of my role at AV is helping to fundraise for IEs, and specifically it's more in like high dollar like institutional funders.
Sure.
So being kind of like a conduit of like all the work that's happening in Florida on that IE side and communicating that to national partners and national funders. And one of the things at GA was that I learned at GA is, but before I joined GA, I didn't have any experience in digital fundraising,
Hmm.
and that's like it's kind of a lot of the work that we do here. And I was just like so like in awe of how much of like it's down to a science at this point, where it's hasn't like the best practices of making things like easy to digest for donors, and
Yeah.
packaging things in the ways that makes them really feel like they're part of the movement, because they really are. And I use that AV too, and being able to tell the story of the IEs in Florida, what they're doing, like what role the donors play. For example, like really easy stuff, like, being able to raise money by the primary will allow us to knock on 30,000 doors or
Yeah.
something like that. Like having really concrete, data driven fundraising pitches was something that was um, so vital and integral in all the things that GA does. So
Yeah.
that was something that was always like being that person, being like, all right, like what is the actual impact of like what you're trying to sell, of like all
Sure.
the organizations I worked with in Florida, like really being nitpicky there, because that's just like the best way of making sure that you're really fundraising as much as you can.
Totally. Are there any other roles or experiences early in your career that had an impact on where you are now that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I would say that being a field organizer on the Hillary campaign was
Mm.
very pivotal in both my career as a whole and just like also how I approach my work and profession,
Sure.
because for anyone who's been on campaign, it's a quite the slog.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most important things that taught me was like being scrappy and just figuring it out. Like the stakes were so high,
Yeah.
as we have seen, uh, and so like not meeting our goals just like wasn't an option. And
Totally.
we were definitely pushed very far, and then pushed ourselves to really like think outside the box, to work collaboratively, to do things that we really push our comfort zone. And by that I mean like just like talking to strangers, because
Yeah. Field organizing is hard, hard work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, especially when it comes to politics and you're just like talking to strangers and being like,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and so that really just shaped both like how I approach things, and like such a problem solving mentality, because again, like excuses like weren't really uh they weren't there for excuses, and they really given that we were such a small part in a big picture, it really made it clear of like what our role played in that. And like we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything that we could. And that's still something I kind of hold very true, is like, especially after working in Florida politics for three to four
Mm.
cycles, like,
Yeah.
and the even though we don't get the outcome that we want in the last few cycles, like I know that I've done everything that in my role and that I was supposed to do. And that's one, let's say, a coping mechanism of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, just because, you know, we lost some of those races, it doesn't mean that like we weren't trying really hard. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important to keep in mind. Um, cool. Um, how do you think about growth as a team leader?
Yeah, I feel like I'm growing every day as a team leader. There's always some new challenges that come up, which
Yeah.
is awesome. All like things that I enjoy learning from, especially because the outcome usually involves the growth of someone else that I manage, and
Yeah.
getting them to like where they want to be and what they can be. And I would say that kind of like the biggest guiding principles I do that I lead by are both like leading by example, like still like um doing all the things that I can, both like with my account managers, like doing their like admin work or something like that, if I need
Mm-hmm.
to like just pitch in the team crunch, or on the execution side, like helping to be more in the weeds with clients as
Sure.
needed. And then also I love also giving people the space and creativity to also figure things out on their own, and coming to me with kind of their solutions and how they've tried things, because I'm definitely open to, most of the time open to them trying things out, failing on their own, and
Yeah.
learning from those mistakes, because I've done that plenty, and I know
Right.
it works.
And someone gave you the space to do that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. Um, can you share a moment when you were most proud of your impact?
The Amendment 4 abortion campaign in 2024 in Florida, I would say, is both like uh, something I'm very proud of and something that had an impact on, not the final outcome, but still a majority of Floridians voted for abortion rights in Florida. And being even like the smallest piece of that, where at AV, our role was to organize the IEs in like their field programs that were knocking doors, doing paid comms, all the things for um, to get yes votes for Amendment 4, and helping to fundraise for that was just like one of the highlights of my career
Yeah.
because of, again, of the stakes and because of the strong coalition that was built from that. So much so that like in the spring afterwards, the same folks and people and funders got together to help combat the attacks from the legislator on ballot initiatives, and were able to help kind of slow that down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And was just like an awesome and very rewarding to be part of like a state
Yeah.
infrastructure that is able to run a close to $100 million campaign with like all things considered in a
Yeah.
state that people have defunded for cycles.
Right.
And
Totally.
um, so I thoroughly enjoyed it, would do it again, and hopefully without a lot of external factors that caused us to
Yeah,
lose the campaign. But
for sure. And it just feels like, you know, almost a little bit removed from like politicians or campaigns where it's like this is an issue that like people actually care about, and like, a lot of states have shown that they actually go the other way than anticipated, and it's like so cool to be a part of that
I
impact.
know, yeah, yeah, lots of folks from all across the political spectrum who supported that. We were able to talk to and get even funding for it,
Yeah,
and so that like brought me hope in that.
amazing. Um, cool. Do you think some of that impact is still kind of like trickling its way down into the 2026 cycle?
Yeah, for sure. I especially I'm thinking about Florida. I We've seen in the last year, in the 2025 off year, and in the special elections that happened earlier this year, that there's been a huge shift in support. And it's been one of the best years for Democrats, even better than 2017, which was a huge blue wave. So that makes me optimistic. We're also seeing it on the nonprofit side, just also the grassroots support of um, of donors and during this time, which is very different from my experience last year on that AE side, because it was mostly again like with more larger institutional funders that had kind of taken some time and um, were holding funding for some valid reasons, but it was such a difference in like one side of the fundraising spectrum really cooling down, and then one really like amping up to
Mm,
meet the moment. And so
yeah.
that's also really been very heartening to see it in real life at GA in the last couple of months.
Yeah, totally. That's a great segue. I wanted to ask next about like what is exciting you about the path forward, working with nonprofits at GA.
What I have learned here too is like there is so much that we can do to bridge the gap between campaign and nonprofit fundraising, and a lot of it and is different and will remain different, but there is so much that one can learn from the other. Like,
Yeah,
for example, I was talking about like packaging information and making it very more tangible for donors. So, um, one of the things that we work with our clients is like bring your donors, like make them feel like they're part of the plan, like make sure that you're packaging things that really shows the impact that they're having, like more
hmm,
concrete. And so I feel like there's so much room there, and so much room in nonprofits learning about what the power of acquisition prospecting is, because coming from that too for so long on
sure.
the IE side, we know that there's like just such a lack of time capacity
Right.
for folks to be doing this all on their own. And then
Sure.
so it's been really awesome to be part of like a real solution
Yeah.
for that, and for such like important players in this in both like the political, non-political, nonprofit world, because especially given where we are right now in the world, all these organizations campaigns are more important than ever.
Yeah, amazing.
Join us in 2 weeks for Maria's deep dive into nonprofit fundraising here on Grassroots Analytics Insider.